What is up, guys? Welcome back to the crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the Lamborghini Huracan LP 622 Super Trofeo, which is going to be, well, a Lamborghini, so I'm sure upon first glance you're most likely going to be thinking this car is going to be insanely good, which, by the way, the car is going to be a lot better than many people think it is. And funnily enough, this was actually the first touring car that I actually got back in the day, and I really started to run this thing a lot more often back then because, for one, it is a race car, and not only that, it's also a Lamborghini. So I figured, a Lamborghini race car, how can you actually turn one of these down? This thing looks honestly incredible. So I was like, you know what, this car is probably going to be pretty dang good. And I was running this thing pretty often in races and stuff to actually level up the touring vehicles back in the day. But I was noticing many players weren't actually running this thing in summits. Now, after this handling update, guys, I really do think that is going to change. I was able to get this car to hit 259 to 260 miles per hour, which is going to make it a lot faster, and or like 8 to 10 miles per hour faster than many of the other cars I have tested out so far. So at least you are going to be able to actually hit 260, which on some of those longer events I do think is going to be pretty helpful. I would say, unlike the US Speed Tour events, that being able to go 260 is going to be pretty dang helpful, especially due to the fact that some of the top touring cars all do well over 260, so at least you will be able to keep up with them if you guys are racing in like a summit and or competitively. I do think a lot of players are wondering, though, is the top speed really going to affect these cars that much? Like, for example, is the Huracan really going to be that much better than, like, let's say the M6 GT3 that does like 255, or like one of the other cars that do like 252? To be honest, guys, I really don't think that 8 miles per hour is going to make a big difference with any of these cars. I really do think a lot of them normally do struggle to hit their actual top speed anyway. You actually do have to use a nitrochemist set, plus I did notice, depending on which road you guys might be on, like for example in the Lamborghini here, you might not actually be able to hit 260 miles per hour. You might hit like 256 or like 257, and normally you're going to go through way too much nitrous trying to push it a few extra miles per hour. This is going to be very noticeable in many of the hypercars as well. I even notice on some of them you can't actually get the legitimate top speed that they can hit, because the roads normally don't allow it, and or I guess you can't actually hit it in that area. But overall, guys, the Huracan is going to be insanely fast, though. I do like the way this car does feel going around a track as well. It feels really nice going around corners, and it does give you a lot of confidence. Whereas something like the M6 GT3 might have some areas where the stability is honestly not going to be all that great, which I did notice with it. That's why I do like testing out these other cars, and going back to this Huracan really did bring back some memories as well, because I do remember going through those touring car events, trying to race this car and actually level this thing up, you know, when the AI were insane. Now they are going to be kind of cracked with how they drive, so with certain cars I would say some of the events are probably going to be a lot more difficult than they should be, and even in some aspects you normally can't even catch one of the drivers every single time. But I guess that's going to add on to the difficult part of these events, though, especially on Ace, and I guess they should be kind of difficult if you are trying to max out some of these cars. Luckily, the Huracan here is still going to be a really great option if you are looking for a well-balanced car to actually grind out some part sets that you might have been missing, and or maybe you're farming some money in a different way besides doing a hypercar event. Then I would definitely recommend something like this Huracan. Now, can you actually drive this car in summits and still compete with some of the better cars? I would 100% say yes to that answer, because the Huracan is going to be insanely good. Is it going to be like the best new touring car in the game after this update? That's most likely going to come down to how many people are running the Huracan. I will have to keep an eye on that leaderboard, especially in the summits, to see how this car does stack up, and if players are actually going to be running this thing. But overall, guys, the Huracan is definitely going to be a lot better now, and I would definitely recommend trying out this car if you never did in the past. Let me know your thoughts on the Huracan in the comments below, and here are my current settings that seem to make this car pretty dang good.